Welcome to Sprocket Damage. My name is Jason.
Now who's this motherfucker?
It's the voice of God. Show some respect.
Oh, the voice of God. Where's the rest of them?
And this is one of my favorite movies you've probably never heard of. Released in 1999, Dogma is kind of a unique little gem for a number of reasons. Written and directed by Kevin Smith, this was his biggest film to date. Having released 3 prior films, Clerks, Mallrats, and Chasing Amy, Smith was on an upward trajectory and quickly becoming a filmmaker that garnered some massive attention in a world still hungry for underground indie films. And Dogma did not disappoint.
Movies are f***ing bullshit.
It was a moderate box office success, making back more than 3 times its $10 million budget. Critics generally liked it, and even now it still has a solid cult following. So why haven't you seen it? We'll get to that a bit later.
Look, we gotta get moving. Let's say we continue this discussion over a 2-piece and a biscuit. Come on.
First, let's talk about what's going on in this movie. Dogma has 2 branching storylines that eventually come to a head as it follows 2 separate groups heading to a specific church in New Jersey. The first of these groups is a pair of angels, Bartleby and Loki.
You know, here's what I don't get about you. You know for a fact that there is a God. You've been in his presence. He's spoken to you personally. Yet I just heard you claim to be an atheist.
I just like to with the clergy, man.
These 2 have discovered that this particular New Jersey church is offering to cleanse the sins of anyone who walks through their doors as a bit of a marketing campaign to grow attendance. It just so happens that Bartleby and Loki have been kicked out of heaven and see this as a free ticket back home.
If we die with clean souls, there's no way they can keep us out. We won't be angels anymore, but at least we get to go home.
The other group consists of a ragtag party of prophets, an apostle, and Bethany Sloan. Their quest is to head to that same church and
stop a couple of angels from entering and thus negating all existence.
Wait. Repeat that?
Stop a couple of angels from entering and thus negating all existence. I hate it when people need it spelled out for them.
It turns out that if Bartleby and Loki enter this church and thus can re-enter heaven, it proves God wrong. Since the very foundation of all existence rests on the fact that God is infallible, this act of defiance would unmake everything, all because a cocky cardinal is trying to boost his numbers. It's a pretty clever setup that pokes fun at the hubris of people when it comes to religious doctrine.
One of the last sacred promises, imparted to Peter, first pope, by the Son of God before he left was, whatever you hold true on earth, I'll hold true in heaven. It's dogmatic law.
Along the way, Bethany and the gang come across other heavenly creatures, such as Serendipity, a Golgothan,
A what? A shit demon!
the Metatron, and the demon Azrael. Quite the adventure.
And what about Jay and Bob? I mean, those guys were all right, though.
It should come as no surprise to you, given the heavily religious subject matter in this dark, fairly vulgar comedy, that yes, it was met with some backlash from the Catholic community. So this is interesting, actually, since Kevin Smith is a bit of a provocateur and took advantage of the added publicity to troll the haters.
The whole fucking world's against us, dude. I swear to God.
One of the more prominent, let's call him a critic, was William Donahue of the Catholic League. This is an organization that claims to, quote, counter discrimination against Catholics in government and popular culture. Donahue has been the president of the organization since 1993 and still is as of 2024. He decided to protest Dogma for months, apparently without having seen it himself. Donahue eventually reached out to Smith's team to request a screening of the film so that he could, quote, speak about it intelligently. To which Smith replied, so what has he been doing for the past 6 months? Smith also reportedly found a group of people protesting his film outside of a theater and decided to join them. A reporter, who obviously hadn't done their homework, randomly found him and asked him about it.
I don't think it stands for anything positive.
What does it stand for?
I don't know, but I've been told not good.
The ironic thing is that if they actually watched the movie, they would have seen the opening disclaimer that addresses the possible concerns and understood that Smith himself is Catholic. Plus, while the film is clearly poking fun at the church as an institution and the human faults present in the establishment,
the Catholic Church does not make mistakes.
Please, what about the church's silent consent of the slave trade?
And its platform of non-involvement during the Holocaust?
All right. Mistakes were made.
It actually spends very little time on that and instead chooses to find its humor within the Catholic dogma. It poses some genuinely interesting questions of the spiritual world, like what happens when an angel sees the wrath of the Old Testament God and experiences remorse.
I asked you once to lay down the sword because I felt sorry for them. What was the result? Our expulsion from paradise. Where was his infinite fucking patience then? It's not right. It's not fair.
Smith might have a tendency to treat these biblical figures and ideologies as comic book fare, but that's not particularly surprising coming from him. Plus, let's be honest, the rules sometimes feel that way.
Look, but don't touch. Touch, but don't taste. Taste, don't swallow. And while you're jumping from one foot to the next, what is he doing? He's laughing his sick f***ing ass off.
What I love about this film is that Smith takes his time with all of the characters and really fleshes them out and gives them each an arc. Nobody is wasted. The main focus of this is split between the journeys of Bartleby and Loki and that of Bethany. Bethany at first is shown to be what some might consider a typical Catholic, though that might just be my own anecdotal evidence. She's jaded and frustrated with her spirituality.
You need a man, if only for 10 minutes. It's been my experience that the average male is never a man, not even for 10 minutes in his entire lifespan.
That sounds a little bit militant. You think you join the other side?
Couldn't do it. Women are insane.
Well, then you need to go back to church and ask God for a third option.
I think God is dead.
The sign of a true Catholic.
Being thrown headfirst into this biblical mythology shakes up her worldview and reignites the anger she was feeling towards her situation. I do like Bethany's journey, even if I think her resolution is a little bit of a cop-out.
Oh, well, pardon me, Mr. Perfect!
For me, the more interesting journey is that of the angels. Casting Matt Damon and Ben Affleck to play these two, while not the original choice, worked perfectly for these characters. Damon and Affleck are notable best friends in real life, so they worked well on screen naturally as a pair of outcast angels who have known each other for eons. While the two of them have the same basic goal, to get back into heaven, they approach it differently. Loki, once the Angel of Death, wants to get back to his old role and decides that he has a past to be violent again.
Any moron with a pack of matches can set a fire. Raining down sulfur is like an endurance trial. Mass genocide's the most exhausting activity one can engage in, next to soccer.
Bartleby, on the other hand, wants to be discreet. He, of course, was more of a pacifist. What's interesting is that over the course of the film, the two of them gradually switch approaches, with Loki losing his bloodlust and Bartleby finally succumbing to his rage.
Wings, now. I'm feeling a little exposed here.
Do it!
Seeing the ageless turmoil that these two express throughout their journey is a somewhat unique first-hand look at what that might be like. It's no mistake then that Smith chose to dress the angels in a similar garb to the angels in Wim Wenders' classic Wings of Desire. Okay, so hopefully now I've convinced you to check out this movie. I hate to tell you that this is going to be a tough one to find. There are still old copies of the DVD and Blu-ray that you can find out there, but they ain't cheap. It also isn't available to stream anywhere, and theaters can't play it.
What the f does that mean? Has everyone gone f***ing nuts? What the f happened to that guy's head?
I think we all know who we can blame. An evil and ancient force of greed, spite, and heresy. Once in the clouds, and now deep in a dark underground, people recoil at the sound of his name and denounce the scourge that he has brought to this land. No, not Satan, but Harvey Weinstein.
A shit demon!
When DOGMA was originally released in 1999, setting up streaming rights in a contract wasn't really a thing yet. So this was never done, and by the time it would have come up, Weinstein was already knee-deep in his own comeuppance. Smith apparently did try to buy the rights back to his film, but Weinstein scoffed at his offers and refused to sell. Not to mention that Smith felt that he didn't want to give Weinstein a single cent after the allegations came to light. In short, for now, DOGMA is a tough film to find. If you're willing to shell out the money for a disc, I'd say it's worth it. Otherwise, we're gonna have to wait around until Weinstein finally departs and the rights get freed up. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to buy more physical media.
And if you clean up your language, I just might put in a good word for you too.